before when the board gave you the green light and said, yes, we want you to be our next CFO. Thinking back now to that young 28-year-old self who stepped into the role for the first time. And again, you've had several CFO roles now. So what is it that you didn't know at that place in time that, today is obvious to you? But, and I always ask it this way, what is the piece of advice you'd give that person? That's what, he knew a lot, but not everything.
Two things come to mind. One, I think it's really the CFO. The thing I love the most about the role is just the purview you have. You have your view across the entire business, and I think it's really unique and a really privileged position to kind of have access to the information we have, to be able to take the small picture and connect it to the big picture. And I think it's our job to convey that big picture to our employees. So that ability to communicate clearly and connect dots for folks, provide context around business decisions, whether those are uncomfortable ones or good ones or happy ones.
Did you anywhere along the way try to augment your communication skills? I don't know. It might have been public speaking too. Again, you were quite a young CFO from the start.
Yeah, I found things that worked over time. It was not a strength in the beginning. In fact, I think I was pretty poor at it. And I'm not saying I'm terrific at it now. I'm a lot more comfortable now. I just found little techniques that would work for me. I found if I was scripted, I performed poorly. If I was prepared and unscripted, I would do well. And for me, I needed to put myself in a situation where I was comfortable with the content and kept my brain on during the presentation. If I was just reading, that wasn't a good recipe for me.
Not scripted. Don't if you depended on a script, you're not gonna be able to be engaging probably either.
The other thing that comes to mind though is I had no idea at age 28 or whatever it was at that time, but the number of tough conversations you have to have, and I don't think we're trained for that as accountants and finance people, but whether that's with people, whether that's around financial planning and budgeting with leaders, whether that's with shareholders, some of the topics we touched on earlier, you got to get comfortable, saying no and having those tough conversations. I don't think I'm the best in the world at this, but you got to be prepared to have them.
Do you recall, is there anything, and again, for a finance executive you just meet networking who's got a similar situation, they're about to take that big step and be on a phone call beside their CEO with all the analysts. What do you avoid? What would you tell that person? What should I avoid? What should I not try to?
When you're explaining, you're losing. So answer the question, communicate clearly, and try to avoid lengthy explanations, which tend to lead to more questions. So I have this, it's not my saying, something I read somewhere along the lines that stuck was, when you're explaining, you're losing. So
that's great. That's really terrific. That's great. You get into the weeds more and more, you're going to create doubt is what happens. Yeah. We are up to our last question where we're going to ask you to look forward finally. And what we want to know are what your priorities are for the next 12 months as a CFO. What are your priorities?
Well, I am optimistic that after a couple of really tough years, particularly in the technology space, that 2024 will be better, at least in the public markets. The public markets tend to be lead, and then business performance tends to follow. And so I'm taking a glass half full approach as we enter 2024, that things will improve. And I think technology companies more broadly, Coveo certainly as well, worked really hard to adjust their business models to the realities over the past couple of years. And I think now we need to be ready for hopefully brighter skies again. And so for what that means for Coveo, um, growth is always going to matter the most. So making sure that we are doing the things that put us in the best position to see growth reaccelerate again. We need to be really clear and communicate well with our stakeholders, our public shareholders, and so on, the things we're doing and why we're doing those and how we're doing against those. And so making sure we've thought through the how we will convey that plan, and ultimately just be ready. When there's been lots written in business texts over the years that those who come out of these cycles the fastest, just like an F1 race going around the corner, it's not how fast you are in the corner, it's how fast you come out. That same analogy, I hope, is what will apply in 2024 for the technology space. So we're working hard to make sure that from an organization, a product, business model, and capital market strategy, that we're ready for that.
Brendan Nussey, thank you for joining us on CFO Thought Leader.
Really appreciate you having me, Jack. Thanks so much.